Hello students, welcome to a lesson through the virtual training center of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher, and in this lockdown period, since we are not able to go to school children, we will be doing many lessons here online through the virtual class. So come on, let's proceed to our lesson for today. So children, as promised last time, here I am back with a lesson in standard 9th, subject English, and we are going to pick up from what we left last time, and we are going to talk about clauses, and this is the second part of this lesson. And children, this is the grammar part of your lesson from lesson number 2.4 as we talked about last time. So before we go to the lesson for today, let us quickly revise what we did last time. Okay, we will not spend too much time revising because there are a lot of points that I want to cover in today's lesson. Even then, let us see what we talked about last time. So we talked about clauses. Remember, we saw what is a clause, and we discussed that a clause is a group of related words which contains a subject and a verb. So whether you're talking about the main clause, whether you're talking about a dependent clause, always remember that a clause contains a subject and it also contains a verb. And it is different from a phrase also we discussed. What is the main difference? That the phrase may not contain a subject and a verb, and it does not usually contain a subject and a verb. Okay, so we brought out the difference between the phrase and the clause. We also saw in detail about what a phrase is. So a phrase is a group of words that usually go together, but they do not make complete sentence. That is, they do not make complete sense. Alright, so we discussed all this last time. We also talked about the main clause last time. So we studied what the main clause is, and we also read that together that a main clause is also called as an independent clause. Now, why is it called as an independent clause? Because it has its own meaning in a sentence. Okay, so the main clause contains a subject and a verb, and it expresses complete thought or complete action, and it can stand on its own in a sentence. We saw various examples also, children, of main clauses. Now, when we were discussing about the other kind of clause, I told you that in the other kind of clause, there are many, you can say, subsections to study about. Okay, so main clause was only one type, and that is the main clause. We also call it as the independent clause. The next type of clause that we are going to study about today is subordinate clause. And when we discussed about subordinate clauses, I told you that subordinate clauses may be of different types. So don't get confused. So clauses are mainly of two types. We have the main clause and we have the subordinate clause. Subordinate clauses again have three types that we will study about today with a lot of examples, so that the idea of the different types of subordinate clause and also what a subordinate clause means will be very, very clear to you. Okay? So what is a subordinate clause? Now, I told you that a subordinate clause is also called as a dependent clause. Dependent means what? And if you remember, I gave you the example of your papa, mummy and you children. So your papa and mummy, that is your parents, they are the main clause in the house. Alright? They are independent, whereas the children in the house, you are the subordinate clause. This is just an example, okay? Don't take it seriously. You are dependent on your parents. Till the time you're studying, till the time you're growing up, you're dependent on your parents. Okay? So this example I had given you when we talked about the main clause and the subordinate clauses. So now let us see what a subordinate clause is. So a subordinate clause does not express a complete thought. Very, very important, you can say, point to remember as far as a subordinate clause is concerned. But remember, it contains a subject, it contains a verb, okay? But it does not express a complete thought. Second most important thing, it cannot stand alone. Cannot stand alone means if the main clause is not there, then the subordinate clause will not give you much meaning in the sentence. The subordinate clause will not be able to tell you too much about the meaning of the sentence. Then we also discussed that it is also called as the dependent clause. Okay, so the subordinate clauses are also called as dependent clauses, and it depends on the rest of the sentence to support it. Why is it called dependent clause? Because it depends on the rest of the sentence to support it. Okay, so this is the meaning, and you can say definition and all the points concerned with the subordinate clauses. So a subordinate clause does not express a complete thought. It cannot stand alone, and it is also known as the dependent clause, and it depends on the rest of the sentence to support it. Okay, so these are the points related to a subordinate clause. Now, understanding what a subordinate clause is good enough, but remember, I told you when you talk about subordinate clauses, there are different types of subordinate clauses that we will have to look at. Don't worry, it is not going to be difficult, and even if you find it difficult, I'm going to make it very simple and easy for you here through this particular video. So once again, you can also say about subordinate clauses, here we said that it does not express complete thought, it cannot stand on its own, etc., etc. We can also say one thing in support of subordinate clauses, and that is subordinate clauses are used to add more meaning to the information which is given in the sentence. Okay, so there is some kind of information which a sentence wants to give you, and the subordinate clause will add more meaning or add more information to the sentence. It will supplement the information which is given by the sentence. Okay, so look at some examples here. So subordinate clause and main clause. The subordinate clause is given in purple letters and the main clause is given in blue letters. So I crept inside. It has got complete meaning. I crept inside. So this is the main clause. Now, I crept inside means slowly I tried to get into a place. Creeping. Now, creeping is not exactly a movement which is associated with human beings. Now, creeping is done by insects or by snakes, lizards, etc., reptiles. Okay, but here creeping inside means when you want to do something very quietly, you do a kind of an action or a movement which you can say is creeping. Okay, creeping means you not exactly you will lie on your stomach and creep. Those kind of movements are also done by people who work for the army, etc. Alright, so here see, I crept inside. Full sentence, full meaning, I crept inside. If you want to add some more information to this I crept inside, then you add the subordinate clause, that is, although I was scared. So I was very scared. Scared means I was very scared, afraid. Okay, I was very afraid, but I crept inside. So now you understand what is the meaning of a subordinate clause. Now just imagine if I write only although I was scared. If I write only the subordinate clause, although I was scared. Now this although I was scared has got a subject and it has got a verb, but does it give you complete meaning? Although I was scared, what? Did I go to sleep? Although I was scared, I jumped off the building. What? You do not get a meaning to this particular sentence. So that is why the although I was scared is a subordinate clause and it supports the main clause I crept inside. But without the main clause I crept inside, this does not have any meaning. So we say that it is dependent on the main clause. Okay, so this is one example. Let us move to the next example. The boy who was 10 jumped. Now you can see here, this is a little different from the first example. In the first example, the subordinate clause was bunched together and the main clause was separate. But here you will see, the boy jumped. This is the main clause. The boy, half of it is before the subordinate clause and half of it is after the subordinate clause. So the boy jumped. This is the main clause. Okay, underlined with red and in blue letters. So now what is the subordinate clause? Who was 10? So which boy jumped? Who was 10? The boy who was 10 years old, he jumped. So who was 10 is the subordinate clause. Now I have written short forms for them. MC is the main clause and SC is the subordinate clause. Okay children, so I think that this one picture and these two examples are enough for you to understand what the meaning of a subordinate clause is. So it contains both kind of, you can say, examples, both kind of sentences where the subordinate clause is in the beginning, sometimes it is in the end also. Okay, I can also write, I crept inside although I was scared. That is perfectly fine. Okay, and also we saw the example where the subordinate clause is in the middle of the main clause. The main clause is split up and there is a subordinate clause in the middle. Okay children, so this is what a subordinate clause mean, and we saw two examples of subordinate clauses as well. Now let's move on and let us see one more example. So see, the boy who won the first place in the race. So this is the boy. So this is the main clause, this is the boy. Who's the boy? The boy that you can see standing here in the picture is the boy. So what information do you want to give about the boy? So this is the boy who won the first place in the race. So he came first in the race. So that is why he's so happy. Look at his expression. So this who won the first place in the race, it does not have any complete meaning. That is why it is called as the subordinate clause. Okay? So I hope the idea of subordinate clauses are clearer to you. See children, I show you maximum number of examples so that you understand how these ideas are used in real life. Okay, to understand grammar, it is extremely important for you to understand the examples. If you know the definition but you do not know how to use it, then it is of no use. So language is about using. Okay, so you just know all the definitions, you know what the definition of a noun is, but you cannot identify a noun, is of no use. That information or that knowledge as far as language is concerned is worthless. Okay, that is why we look at as many examples as possible. See, I want to go to the beach this weekend. So I want is the main clause. You could also say I want to go to the beach can also be the main clause. Okay, here both of them will be right. I want can be the main clause, or I want to go to the beach can also be the main clause. This weekend then will become the subordinate clause, or to go to the beach this weekend can become the subordinate clause. Alright, so this is one more example. So I hope the idea of a subordinate clause is clear to you. So once you understand what a subordinate clause is, immediately you will be able to pick out the main clause and vice versa. So if you understand what subordinate clause is, automatically you will know what a main clause is. Okay, and if you have understood what main clauses are, automatically you will know what a subordinate clause is. Okay children? So now let's move on. Let us look at a few more examples. After she picks me up, Mum is taking me to buy shoes. So now tell me, which part of the sentence makes complete sense? Yes, the mum is taking me to buy shoes makes complete sense. Okay, so the other part, after she picks me up, is the subordinate clause. You will also see that there is a comma which has been used and it separates the main clause from the subordinate clause sometimes. Look at the next one. I first met her in Paris, where she lived as a small child. Now there is some kind of patch which has come up here, so let us skip this example. Let us look at the first example only. So after she picks me up, Mom is taking me to buy shoes. So we have one main clause here and one subordinate clause. So children, we have seen enough examples now for subordinate clauses. Let us move on to see what are the different types of subordinate clauses. So I told you there are 3 types of subordinate clauses that we will study in part of today's lesson. Okay? So the 3 types of subordinate clauses are adjective clauses, adverb clauses, and noun clauses. Simple. Adjective clauses, adverb clauses, and noun clauses. So now let us move on and check out each one of them. But remember, to be a clause, a group of words must have a subject and a predicate. A subject is a noun and a predicate is the verb. So remember, if it doesn't have a subject and a predicate, it is not a clause, it is a phrase. Okay? So this is what we are going to remember always, and keep it behind your head when you're learning about the different types of clauses also. I will also keep reminding you when I tell you about each of the clauses. So this is the qualification for a clause. A clause should have a subject and a predicate, whether it is a main clause or whether it is a subordinate clause. Come on now, let's go and look at each of the types of subordinate clauses. Now children, before we go there, let me tell you that in adverb clauses, there are various types of adverb clauses, okay? But we are not going to touch upon all of them. We will look at only the ones which are relevant to us in the 9th standard level. Because if you sit and study grammar, if you go to see grammar, it is like an endless thing. You can go on and on and on. But then we have to know where to draw the line and how much we will need at which stage of our studies. Okay? So we will first start with adjective clauses. Here also I will try and give you as many examples as possible so that the idea is clear to you. So an adjective clause is a dependent clause. Now I need not repeat it again and again. Okay, we are talking about subordinate clauses. So an adjective clause is a dependent clause that functions as an adjective. Very important this is. So an adjective clause functions as an adjective. Remember this. Okay. So now what is an adjective? An adjective modifies the noun or the pronoun. Modifies means it gives more meaning to the noun or the pronoun. So just keep this in your mind. When I give you the examples, it will be very clear to you. So see here, one example, students who study hard always get good results. So which students, when we are talking about students, here it is the noun. Students is the noun. So students get good results. Which students will get good results? Those students who study hard. So see, the student or the meaning of the student is being modified here. Alright? Adjective clauses sometimes replace the adjectives. So sometimes instead of writing the adjective clause, you can also write one adjective. But then this is the way sometimes language is used. I will give you that example also when we see the remaining part of this lesson. Okay. So adjective clause, let me tell it to you in Hindi. Adjective clause के बदले हम adjective भी use कर सकते हैं. Okay. But when we are studying about clauses, we are talking about adjective clauses. Let's see this example. An adjective clause is used to describe a noun. Very simple. So what is an adjective? Adjective describes the noun, isn't it? When we learnt about the various parts of speech, we learnt about noun, then we learn about adjective. Then we learn about verb, then we learn about adverb. Because a noun is connected to the adjective and the verb is connected to the adverb. So what is the adjective? We learnt that adjectives describe a noun. So here the adjective clause will describe the noun. Okay. So let us look at an example. The car. So here the car is the noun. Okay. What car? The car which is blue. So blue is the adjective. So which was blue? Here is the adjective clause. Like I told you, you can also say the blue car belonged to Ethel. Okay, that was also correct. But since we are learning clauses here, we are turning this adjective into an adjective clause, and I am teaching it to you. Once again, an adjective clause is used to describe a noun. So an adjective is used to describe a noun. So an adjective clause is also used to describe a noun. So the car is the noun here, which is being described as blue. So the blue is the adjective. So the blue car. So instead of saying the blue car belonged to Ethel, we are saying the car which was blue belonged to Ethel. So here the blue adjective becomes the adjective clause because some more words are added to it. Okay, children, so this is the meaning of an adjective clause along with an example. Let us look at this now, so you will understand easily how an adjective can be changed into an adjective clause and vice versa. So the angry tiger snarled at me. Just now I told you, the blue car belonged to Ethel. So there blue was the adjective. Here see, the angry tiger snarled at me. So which tiger? The tiger who was quiet, the tiger who was happy, the tiger who was hungry? No, the angry tiger. So angry is the adjective which is describing the tiger here, isn't it? See how we have changed it and made the adjective into an adjective clause. So we have written, the tiger that was angry snarled at me. So see, the angry became that was angry. One word became a group of words and so it became a clause. Alright. So once again, the tiger that was angry. So that was angry replaces angry here. And it describes the tiger. So it is an adjective clause. Alright. So I hope this explanation satisfies you. Let us look at some examples now. So the person who wrote the book is my sister. So the person is my sister is the main clause that we know already. So who wrote the book? Which person? Or the person? What is important about the person? Okay, so the person who wrote the book is my sister. So we are talking more, giving more information about the person. Alright, the person who I am calling is my sister. Again, same example but with a different clause. The person is my sister, but now this time that person is not writing a book. That person is calling. I am calling that person. Next example, the desk that is broken is in the shed. So the desk is in the shed is the main clause. That is broken. So what is wrong with the desk? The desk is broken. Okay. The desk that I broke is in the shed. Alright. So here we are talking about the desk and we are saying the desk which I broke is in the shed. So these are all examples of adjective clauses. Okay. Moving on. Let us talk about adverb clauses. Adverb clauses, like I told you, adverb clauses are clauses which will talk about the verb. So when we talk about the verb, that is when we talk about the action in a sentence, we want to know when the action happened, where the action happened, how the action happened, in what manner the action happened, and to what extent the action happened. So reason we want to know the time, we want to know the location. Okay, so then all these clauses will become adverb clauses, isn't it? So let us see. An adverb clause is a subordinate clause that modifies a verb, remember. Just like adjective clauses modified the nouns, the adverb clauses will modify the verb, the adjective or another adverb. Okay, so remember, just like the adjective is connected to the noun, the adverb is connected to the verb or sometimes to the adjective also. So like an adverb clause will also tell you where, when, how, why, under what condition, to what extent, etc. So remember this and remember the examples that we did for adjective clauses and try to associate them to understand this more easily. So just like adjective clauses act like adjectives and they support the noun or they give us more information about the noun, adverb clauses here talk about the verb, isn't it? So moving on, let us see what are the types of adverb clauses. So you have adverb clause of time, reason, purpose, place and manner. There are some other types of adverb clauses also, but then we will not look at them today. Okay? And why? The reason I told you right in the beginning of this lesson. So let us talk about some of the types of adverb clauses with examples, and then I will give you an assignment to talk or to find out examples about the other types. Okay? So let us look at some examples of adverb clauses in a very interesting manner. We will break down the examples and try to understand them. So they played where we had planted some seeds. Okay? So you had planted some seeds and you were waiting for the seeds to grow, but they went and they played over there. So we are not bothered about what happened later. We are only bothered about they played. Okay? So you can see I have used different colors to the letters. So we said in the beginning that clauses should have a subject and they should have a verb. So here we have they played where we had planted some seeds. In this, they played is the main clause. Okay? So now let us see which is the adverb clause and why it is a particular kind of adverb clause. Now children, sometimes grammar lessons are a little heavy to understand. You might get tired also, so you can do one thing. If you get tired, you can pause the video, do something else, watch some other lesson and then come back and start again so that you don't get bored. Okay? So they played. So the played here is the verb. So we know that adverb clauses, they go along with the verbs. So they played is the verb. So we are talking about more about the verb. So where we had planted some seeds is the adverb clause. Okay? So played is the verb. So where did they play? Where we had planted some seeds. So where we had planted some seeds is the adverb clause. Now if you look at the word carefully here, we have the word where. Now where indicates location or it indicates place. So therefore this where we had planted some seeds is the adverb clause of place. So is it clear to you now how we find out what kind of adverb clause it is? Moving on, let's see the next one. It rained yesterday when we were going to the market. Okay? So rained here is the verb. We know it. When we were going to the market is the adverb clause. Concentrate on the word when. When means a time. We are talking about time when we use the word when. So this particular adverb clause, when we were going to the market, is an example of adverb clause of time. Simple, isn't it? Next example, your teacher will tell you why your answer was wrong. So tell, here is the verb. Why your answer was wrong is the adverb clause. What kind of adverb clause is it? So search for the keyword which is why. So when I'm asking you why, means what am I saying? Why did you not come to school yesterday? I'm asking you the reason, isn't it? So why indicates a reason. So this particular adverb clause, why your answer was wrong, is the adverb clause of reason. So see children, out of the 5 kinds of clauses that we talked about, adverb clauses, 3 we have seen. Adverb clause of place, adverb clause of time and adverb clause of reason. So let me give you a small assignment here at this point. The remaining 2 types, that is, let us look back at what we did. The remaining 2 types, that is, time we saw here now, reason we saw here and place we saw. Okay, so adverb clause of purpose and adverb clause of manner. try to find out one example at least each. So this is your assignment as far as adverb clauses are concerned. So children, we have done this. Let's move on and let's go to the next type, the third type of clause, which is the noun clause. Again, very simple. So when we started off with the lesson, it was looking difficult, but now see, it has become so simple. So a noun clause contains a subject and it contains a verb. This we all know. All types of clauses contain a subject and a verb. So like the adjective clause and the adverbial clause, it cannot stand by itself in a sentence. Why? Because it is a subordinate clause. It must be a part of the complete sentence and it should take the place of a noun. This is important for us to understand. So just like the adjective clause took the place of an adjective, the noun clause will take the place of a noun. Let us see how, and let us see what words the noun clauses begin with usually. So noun clauses begin with how, that, what, whatever, when, where, etc. Okay? Let us look at this example. The idea will be perfectly clear to you. So the noun clauses, they can replace a noun or sometimes a pronoun also. Now let us analyze this particular sentence. I heard that they had a baby. Let us try to analyze this particular sentence. I heard that they had a baby. So remember, the noun clause replaces a noun or a pronoun. Okay, so replaces means what? Takes the place of. In place of the noun or the pronoun, you sometimes make use of the noun clause. Alright, let's see how we can rewrite the sentence. So I can say that instead of I heard that they had a baby, I can also say I heard something. So what is the something? What did I hear? I heard that. Instead of the something, I am saying that they had a baby. So I am replacing the something, which is a noun, with they had a baby. So that they had a baby becomes a verb, noun clause here. Okay, so whenever you're using a group of words to replace a noun or a pronoun, then that becomes a noun clause. Let us take some examples. You will understand, but once again, each time I repeat, every noun clause will also have a subject and a verb. An adjective clause also will have a subject and a verb. And an adverb clause also will have a subject and a verb. Why? Because they are clauses and they are not phrases. Okay, let us look at these two examples to clear up the idea. So a clause that functions as a noun is called as a noun clause. So let us look at example number 1. Whatever you wish is my command. So that is a genie who's saying whatever you wish is my command. So whatever you wish is the noun clause, out of which we have the subject and the verb also here. So whatever you wish is my command. So out of which whatever you wish is the noun clause. Let us look at the soldier now here, or the pirate who says, I know where the treasure is. Okay, so where the treasure is here is the noun clause. And here the treasure is the subject and is the verb. Okay children, so this was about noun clauses. So today's lesson we talked mainly about subordinate clauses and we talked about the 3 types of subordinate clauses as well. In adverb clauses, again we looked at adverb clauses of time, of place, of reason, etc. So hope the idea of clauses in totality, that is main clause and subordinate clause with its various types, are clear to you.
So children, wasn't that a wonderful video? And did you enjoy watching it? So if you want to watch more such videos in future, then please like this video and also subscribe to our channel, the MCGM Portal for Education, and also hit the bell button so that you get notified whenever I upload a new video here. Thank you so much for now. Let's meet again soon.